to the clerk. I apologize. Moving my papers around. Thank you. I did give it away. So it's 6:30 and we'll call this a committee of a whole agenda to, or committee of the whole to order. So we are at 6:30. Number 2, declaration of interest or general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare? Is there anything you'd like to add, Councilor Grill? Okay. Okay. Well, I hope you're all interested in what's on tonight's agenda, but don't have a general interest to declare, then makes it go a little more smoothly. So number 3 on the agenda is adoption, and the motion comes forward from Councilor Jameson and seconded by Councilor Grell that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Any comments or questions, additions, deletions? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Next, number 4, delegations, presentations, and there are none. Number 5, there's no in-camera session this evening. And number 6, staff reports, community and business services report SR-140-22, community grants fall intake. And the motion comes forward from Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Fody, that the committee of the whole recommends that council award community grants in the amount of $43,907, and that the committee of the whole recommends that council authorize a third grant intake for 2022 open exclusively to local cemetery boards. So discussion on this motion. Deputy Mayor Lachlan.
I think it's a fantastic idea and a good initiative that they put forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gorell? No? Okay, Councillor Fody and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. This third grant intake, is it the balance of what is left, which amounts to? I did my math. I just want to see if we're on the same page.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship, I believe I was a little unprepared for that particular question, but it's only around $15,000 if I had to, maybe closer to 22. 7. It's only 7. Well, there we go. Thank you,
That's what I had.
CAO Donaghy.
So $7,000 will approximately be remaining from the grants award. So I have Councillor Maybe and then Councillor Gorell.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. Yeah, $7,231 left over from that, which is going to the cemetery fund, which I think is a very good thing, since we were talking about that last council, that some of these cemeteries are in need of some assistance to bring them up and maintain them. So I think it's a good way to go. Thank you.
Okay, and then Councillor Gorell.
And just through you, Your Worship, were these all of the applications listed? Were there more applications on this second intake, or was this everybody?
Through you, Your Worship, that was all of the applications that were received in the second intake.
Okay, and Councillor Olkey, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I met a lady recently who was very concerned about the Washburn Corners Cemetery, which the operations officer and I tried to find, and we couldn't find it on air imagery. There might be some vestigial things. Do we know which cemeteries are in line to receive this grant specifically, or how many cemeteries are in line to receive this grant?
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship, actually, we don't have a designated list of cemeteries that would be allocated these funds. We would encourage them to apply using the existing grant program. It allows for consistency in applications and vetting of the applications so that funds would be awarded based on merit.
Follow up.
Thank you very much for that, but I'm thinking some of these cemetery committees might not be able to apply for the grant.
In what regard?
Don't do anything online, and they're essentially moribund. You know, so there's probably some, lady pointed out to me this particular cemetery is a resting place for people who were quite notable in the history of the region, but it's dilapidated and no one appears to be in control,
Right.
but it's still a private cemetery.
So I would say that our staff here are happy to help if somebody has a need. They could easily contact us and make an appointment to come in and help be guided through that process if need be. So Councillor Jameson.
Just to remind council that staff was directed to develop the cemetery's policy overarching for all the cemeteries going forward. And I think to Councillor Oakey's point, at that stage, we'll have a better idea what we need to do for everybody, not just a few people.
Well, and it is a concern that currently, I know there are some cemeteries in the township that are doing quite well. They're managed quite easily and have been for years. And then there's a number of them that are either, I don't want to say abandoned, but sort of defunct and nobody's maintaining them. And then there's some that people are expecting the township to maintain, but until it's our property, until the books are turned over with all the documentation and what have you, then technically it is not the township's obligation to maintain said properties. The intention, I believe, based on the conversations that I've had with staff here, is that these additional funds that were not awarded through the grant application process can be put into place to help cemetery boards who are struggling. So there is a merit situation to that, and that's why they will look at them consistently. But I can appreciate the comment that Councillor Oakey had in regards to people who are of a certain age that may not be as technologically advanced, but nonetheless, the staff that are here are happy to help people walk them through that and help them go through. So I think that there will be, as per Councillor Jameson's point, there will be a more comprehensive cemeteries policy coming forward here in the near future, which can be considered by the next council. Okay, Councillor Fody, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to our community services. Was there anything precluding cemeteries from applying for these grants prior?
Through you, Your Worship, actually, we have had cemeteries apply in past and were successful in receiving funds for maintenance purposes.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's more of a promotion based on the need. But I think that in light of the assistance that we have provided in the past, this is a more fair and equitable way of doing it without potentially having to take these on altogether and assuming all risk and what have you that might come along with it. So I see no further comments or questions. So with that, I will ask for a vote on the motion that's on the floor. So all those in favor of the motion at hand, all those opposed, and we're carried. So congratulations to all the grant recipients. And we look forward to working with the cemetery board members that may be in need of some assistance. Next item on the agenda is Finance Report SR-109-22 Allowance for Doubtful Accounts Policy. And that is moved by Councillor Fody, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the Allowance for Doubtful Accounts Policy. Are there any comments or questions in regards to this policy? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So we'll go forward with calling the vote. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. Okay, next item, 6.3 Finance Report SR-133-22 Debt Management Policy. And the motion comes forward from Councillor Fody, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the debt management policy. Discussion on this motion. Councillor Grell, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship, I thought this was well written. You may remember that I was fairly vocal and very concerned about the level of debt that we had discussed. We didn't vote in the affirmative. We were just looking at it through our budget process during a time of COVID. So when I read this, I feel much more comfortable moving forward as to how we are going to accept our debt. And I think the treasurer has done a very fine job of explaining it. And I'd like to point out, and particularly to the public that's been told that there is going to be this debt assumed, that is not quite correct. The fact is that this policy clearly states that it will be considered, and it will be considered in the policy of our overall asset management, as well as the levels of our reserve funds. And it will be done at the time of the finishing of various projects. So I think if people took the time to read the small print, they would find that this is a very good policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Correll. Any other comments or questions in regards to this policy? I just might add that, the government does provide some guidance, if you will, as to how much we shouldn't borrow and what have you. But it's kind of, I liken it to mortgages. I can approve people up to a certain amount. It doesn't mean they can actually afford it. So while I can appreciate that the government says that we can have this much in debt, we know that we're in good hands with the staff that we have, and the recommendations that would come forward, we would not sink ourselves one way or the other. And just to also add further comment in regards to what the United Counties of Lees and Grenville is facing, which is a huge debt because of the decision made to go forward with Mapleview Lodge and what we might have to do for County Road 43. And I add that in. I know it's not specific to this, but when you look at debt, whether it's at this level, this tier or upper tier, it's important we keep things in check. And I am very concerned about the county level, but I'm hopeful here at the municipal level at the first tier. So any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to our Director of Finance. I want to echo what Councillor Grell has said. This is very thoroughly presented to us. It leaves almost no unknowns, if you will. And as Councillor Grell had stated, I think the public needs to be aware of how this is written as well, so they can better understand where we're coming from and future decisions. And I just want to thank the Director of Finance for providing the clarity here. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Okay, so the next one is also finance report number SR-133, or sorry, SR-134-22, approval of financial administration policy and repeal of old finance policies. So the motion comes forward from Councillor Grell, seconded by Councillor Olkey, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the financial administration policy, and that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council repeal the following: Resolution number 321-03 Casino Revenue Policy, Bylaw number 06-019 Financial Policy, Bylaw number 07-059 Casino Allocation Committee, Bylaw 07-060 Policy on Annual Requests for Grants, Policies for the Treasury Department, Bylaw 18-023 Financial Management Bylaw, and Year-End Financial Surface/Deficit Policy, which was March 12th, 2018. So I know this one is definitely a little more complicated to it just requires a bit more thought process, or at least it did for me. I had the pleasure of talking to the treasurer about this at length, but this is much more streamlined policy and cleaning up some old policies that were either not applicable anymore or were duplicated in a different policy. So are there any comments or questions in regards to this one? Deputy Mayor?
I just have one through you to the treasurer. How long did it take you, if you don't mind me asking, to provide this document for us? Because it's must have been painstaking.
Through your worship, it took a while,
Don't be modest.
but it took me doing it at home too, with no interruption. So to pull out all these other, like I have them all printed, the old ones, so I could actually kind of look at them all and try to figure out how to cover them all off in a meaningful way that made sense and what was already covered off in other policies to try to clean it up. So.
Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Worshipman, through you, and to Kate. I love how the casino one was written, and like how it is spelled out and how it's going to be used. So it's clear for everybody in radio land, let's say, so that they know what we're doing with that. So thank you. Good job.
Any further comments or questions while the treasurer is at the podium? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you very much, Director Tyndall. I know that policies can make people's eyes water. So the pile that you have definitely would have taken a while to get through. Next item on the agenda is planning report SR-016-22 application for part lot control 16 Church Street, Lansdowne, Colmac properties. And the motion comes forward from Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Gorell. That committee of the whole recommends that council grant 3 readings and final passage of bylaws number 22-064 attached to report SR-136-22 as exhibit A, being a bylaw to allow lots 150, 557, 558, and 559 of registered plan 194 to each be divided into 2 lots and to allow easements for stormwater control and utilities to be created over lots 543, 544, and 545, and lots 557 and 559. Okay, I got through that with all the right numbers. Any comments or questions? Councillor Maybe.
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and through you. My first question is, when this came to us originally, it had 6 lots, which it still is, but they wanted to divide it in 2. I don't believe it was a semi-detached dwelling that they had proposed at that time. I don't think, but I could be wrong. And with that, are they going to allow for access to the backyard from the side of each house? It is only roughly 30 feet wide. If it's divided in half, that's round numbers. And this also potentially could be more affordable housing being a semi-detached. Thank you.
Madam Planner.
Thank you. Just 1 second. So through you, when this application came before council as a zoning amendment in 2019, at the time it was proposed to all 6 lots that are shown here were rezoned to allow a semi-detached dwelling on each lot. With respect to the lots themselves, the existing zoning would have allowed for semi-detached, but it wouldn't have been able to be severed down the common party line to allow freehold ownership of each resulting lot. So there's no need for easements or anything to allow access to rear yards. There's plenty of room on the lots based on the zoning and the side yard setbacks to allow rear yard access. At the time, all 6 of these lots were proposed to be divided. Currently, the lots on Church Street are being proposed to be left as is. The applicant is looking at their options for developing that area based on some servicing constraints because there currently aren't laterals in front of the property in this area of Church Street. So they're going to come back to us at a later date with that. So right now, everything is in line and all of the details have been worked through to allow for these 3 lots to be divided in 2 to allow the construction of 3 semi-detached dwellings with 6 units to be separated down the common party wall.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, and through you, your worship, how does this translate to taxes with regards to the different number of lots and the servicing of the water and sewer?
Through your worship, so 3 lots that currently exist will now become 6 separately conveyable lots. It's going to add to the housing inventory. It's going to add 6 new residential units to the servicing within Lansdowne. So it'll put 6 new units on the servicing, which will help offset some of the costs and add new users to the system. With respect to taxation, I can't speak to that. It's not a consideration of the planning process necessarily, and I don't know what the assessment would be of the lots.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Okay. 6.6 Planning Report SR-137-22, naming of private lane 514-Thousand Islands Parkway. Moved by Councillor Oakey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lackey, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the name Edgewater Lane for the private right-of-way that is currently addressed as 514A-E 1000 Islands Parkway. Any comments or questions? We had a public planning meeting previous to this meeting in regards to it, and there were no questions at that point. So seeing none here, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay. Next item, 6.7 Planning Report SR 138 22, addition of St. John's Church and Cemetery 125 Sweets Corners Road to the Township Heritage Register. Moved by Counselor Olkey, seconded by Counselor Gorell. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that council authorize pursuant to Section 27 of the Ontario Heritage Act that the property located at 125 Sweets Corners Road, St. John's Church and Cemetery to the Township Heritage Register. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Counselor Jameson.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you, of course. Two questions. By registering this, we are registering St. John's Church and Cemetery.
Correct, because it is one address.
All right. So then question is, has the diocese was there for any further discussion with the Anglican Church?
This was a recommendation coming forward from the Heritage Committee. But also, this doesn't designate the property. It registers it as a church, which I believe, Madam Planner, you can speak to what it does.
No,
in the
I
future.
understand that part, but
Okay.
I'm just concerned about other things going on.
So through your worship, it was discussed at the Heritage Committee meeting with respect to outreach to the Anglican diocese. That did not occur prior to the committee making the recommendation and has not occurred in the interim. Under the Heritage Act, if council is supportive of adding the property to the Heritage Register, so the addition applies to the property as a whole, and the description or assessment that was listed looks at the whole property as the cemetery together with the church. Should council be supportive of adding the property to the register, a notice is required to be provided to the Anglican diocese. They have the opportunity to object. Should they object, the appeal is to council. So council is the final authority in terms of whether or not the property is added to the register. As noted, this isn't a designation, this is a listing. So all the listing does is delay demolition for 60 days. If council has provided notice of intent to designate on a property on the register, then council has 60 days to decide whether it should be designated or whether it should be documented for historic purposes and to allow the demolition to proceed. So at this point, demolition isn't anything that's been brought forward, but the Heritage Committee thought it would be a good idea to get a level of protection on the property.
So keep in mind that this is committee of the whole, so we wouldn't be passing this anyways. We would have a further week to inquire as well. And council has the authority to defer at that time as well, and if you wish to. I have Councillor Olkey with his hand up, and then Councillor Footy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, personally, this sort of structure means quite a bit to me in terms of family heritage and things. Not this one particular, but this sort of thing. When I understand, though, it is absolutely unusable as it is. Black mold is a big problem. But I would think that should it come down, there would be a pretty strong attempt to record it in terms of imagery. That would be the process. Thank you.
Councillor Footy.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. To our Director of Planning, should we designate this or allow this to go forward? Does this in any way impede the active burials that would and could still take place there? Because as far as I know, that cemetery is still active.
Through your worship, this does not impact active burials whatsoever.
Okay.
The only thing that adding it to the Heritage Register would do is provide a delay on demolition.
Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Jameson, go ahead.
Okay, giving what I know up there. I can certainly support the idea of registering it. If this passes, Your Worship, will the Anglican Church be advised that this has been?
So based on what the director said is that they will be advised and they don't go on the registry until they have up to how many days to?
The Heritage Act was amended this year, actually, or last year, under the Bill 108 provisions that the province approved to change the process for listing a property. So previously, the process for listing a property didn't include any mechanism for appeal. So the way it works now is, should council say, yes, we want to add this to the Heritage Register, then we are required to provide notice to the owner of the property indicating that it's council's intent to add the property to the register. Actually, not intent, that council has added the property to the register as a listed property. Based on that listing, the act doesn't specify an appeal period or a time frame. The Anglican Church could object at any time, or the owner of a property to be added could object at any point in time. But the appeal is to council. So it's not to the Ontario Land Tribunal as it previously was. It's to council. And should council receive an appeal, they can hear all of the information would be presented, and the final determination rests with council as to whether the property should remain on the Heritage Register or should be removed from the Heritage Register, subject to certain criteria being met. So it's not that under the previous legislation, my recommendation would have been that there absolutely needs to be consultation with the owner prior to putting it on the register because of the costs associated with potential appeal and litigation. But given that the final appeal now under the new legislation rests with council, we're not looking at incurring additional costs because of the change in the process. So
Well, and I think it also speaks to that sober second thought. If for some reason somebody bought the property, and I'm thinking of any other property, not necessarily an active cemetery, but let's say another house that was up for listing on the registry. If it's registered, it just means that they can't come in and get a demo permit without a 60-day cooling off period, which is probably best for everyone, whether it's for documentation purposes or what have you. So, I think there's a fine line between property rights and what we're here to do. So I think that we're not here to impede anybody necessarily with what they want to do with their property. It's just that we're not jamming a hi ho. Yeah.
Hi-ho?
Mr. Jameson.
Uh,
Hi ho.
hi-ho. Okay. I'd certainly support motion to register it. Particularly if there's a letter going to go to the diocese.
Mhm.
Because the challenge is that, of course, the church has been deconsecrated for a number of years now. The cemetery is still active and has a board.
Mhm.
So the whole business of separating all that is the challenge for the parish.
Mhm.
So, but the letter going to the Anglican Church would be a really good idea. So that maybe we can get a conversation going that's been a little more productive than we have had. So I thank you for that, and I'm certainly supported. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call a question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. So next item is planning report SR-1. Sorry, no, I didn't tick that off. Information items, there are none. Unfinished business. Go ahead, Councillor Oki.
Your worship,
Sorry, Councillor Jameson.
all right, you only got a few more weeks to put up with me. Now I've lost my train of thought. Oh,
It's
yes.
unfinished or other.
I'm curious, no, even though I think it's our unfinished business because I'm sure Councillor Jameson gets a lot of emails, as does Councillor Olkey, on the Lyndhurst Road challenge with Sweets Corners School. And I know our operations director has made a yeoman's effort to try to see if they're ever going to get to the flashing lights up by the school, because I know we hear about it all the time. So it is unfinished business. And I'd like to know if we can nudge a little progress. Thank you.
Well, I can actually take that as well. So the director can certainly lean on their contacts, but I can also make a point under unfinished business at committee of the whole on Wednesday at county, should I need to do that. Go ahead, director, if you have anything to add.
Thank you. Through your worship, I have touched base with the county again. And they followed up with me stating that everything has been ordered. It's hardware that they're waiting on, and it's just delays in materials being delivered. So as soon as they receive it, the intent is to install the infrastructure that needs to be in place in order to make the speed zone only when flashing.
Okay, thank you. I still might bring it up at the county level, just because. Councillor Gorell, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. Regarding our customer complaint policy from September, which I believe we passed. I was wondering, just for transparency's sake, I was thinking about it and it may already be in there and I may have missed it. But I was curious about a report that would give counselors an idea of what complaints came in specific to their ward, shall we say, because I'm asking this because complaints could go in and a counselor such as myself may be unaware, and it might be the best if I understood the general where people were going. If there were no complaints, great. If it was potholes, if it was ditching, whatever, I understand those things, but there might be something more serious that I might miss. And I just wondered if the policy could include a summary. Thank you.
Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. We can trial something like that and adjust it based on information to see if it's too much, too little, and that. But I take your point. It's something a little more serious than, a service request came in for a pothole fill and we did that and that sort of. Okay, we'll undertake to do that. Maybe we'll do that first quarter in the new year once we get going. Okay.
Well, I think that we've seen how well the weekly update has worked as far as keeping counselors apprised of what's going on here. So that would just be potentially a further extension of that, specific to different wards. But I'm sure that the senior management team might be able to come up with something. Excellent. Good recommendation. Unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Yes, thank you, your worship. Train whistles. Why do we not have anything returned to us, some sort of report or where we're going on this
Train whistles. In regards to Lansdowne?
in regards to all our crossings? One's on the track.
Director Holiday?
Thank you, through your worship. I did receive an email back from CN and they have provided me with the whistling cessation index D. So I have to provide them with the information. I'm not sure exactly all the details of what I have to fill out, but I do have a chart here that I have to follow and provide them the information back, and then they can give me the information. So I do have made some headway with this one. I got a response. So now
Which is really the best possible outcome.
now we know. I'm not sure what the outcome will be of this, but they can certainly have a look at it. It takes into account the number of tracks that you're crossing, the speed of the road, and then also the speed of the tracks at that location. That's their standard for.
So it's sort of a formula per
Exactly.
se.
Yep.
Okay.
So follow up,
Go ahead.
how are we tracking this?
So the director is responsible for this. Is there something you could put on the weekly update?
I think I can follow up with a report to council in December for this one.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Is that sufficient, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Lackey? Okay. Report to council in December. Okay, thank you. Unfinished business, Councillor Fody and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, your worship, through you to our fire chief. We've been given a little notification that the new pumper truck was maybe expected to be delivered this week. Can you update that for us if you can, please?
Thank you, Councillor Fody, and through you, your worship. I've been in touch with commercial. They were a little ahead of the game when they put their Facebook page to say that we had our truck. We actually went and looked at it a couple of weeks ago. It is in Woodstock right now. We won't have it this week. We'll have it the week following, I think the 18th, the week of the 18th. So as soon as I get a firm date from him, he's got a few other things they had to do to it in Woodstock, and then we'll have it very, very soon.
For everybody to see, touch and feel.
Yeah.
I still don't have my license, so I can drive it yet. But anyways, it's on my list of things to do. Unfinished business, Counselor Maybe.
Yes, I haven't mentioned this one much, Madam Mayor, but the 401 light. And I know it's on everybody's list, and I know we've talked about it many times.
Are you talking about the one at Highway
unfinished.
2
Highway 2, 401.
at Gananoque
Yes.
near the Thousand Isles RV?
Yeah, the same one.
So Director Holiday and I met with the minister at AMO. Well, not at AMO, after AMO, because we were pushed back. She was called back to Queen's Park. It is on their list to follow up with us, I believe, Director Holiday, wrong title. Because there was 4 things that we spoke about: that Highway 32 and 15, signage, County Road 3 and Reynolds Road. Yep. And yeah, so coming off the 401 and the poor visibility there. And I believe the only one that we got a no-go on, there was out of the 3. I'm sorry, I'm going by memory right at the moment. I'll get the director to speak to it. His memory is probably better than mine.
So the 4 items that we spoke to were County Road 3, the off ramps coming off the 401, the visibility there, because the guide rails, you have to pull out beyond the stop blocks in order to be able to see past the guide rails. It's a horizontal, and there are some obstacles in the way that you can't see out. So you have to pull into oncoming traffic. So they said that they would take a look at that for us, understanding that they have to protect their infrastructure at the same time. We were looking at County Road 2, same idea. There are signs, there are barricades for the bridges, and then also talked about reduced speed through that zone. We had put in a request for a reduction of speed, and then the flashing light. The third one was County Road 32 at 15, given that we're going to be constructing a fire hall there that will help support their infrastructure. Now, they did say that they were going to delay that until after we had constructed the fire hall, which I think is fairly reasonable at this point. And then we'd spoken to the heavy trucks on the Parkway as well. And the lack of signage indicating that trucks should not be on the Parkway. And I've seen trucks since then driving on the Parkway. So that one they were going to look into as well.
Well, we were the benefactors of seeing one of those trucks pulled over on the Parkway by OPP last Wednesday night on our way to the Chamber Gala. So we thank OPP for their diligent attention to that matter, even though the signage could be better for the truck drivers. So Councillor Fody, or no, you're done, and then Councillor Jameson.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Director Holiday, when you're discussing these off-ramp stop signs and that with county or whomever, can we bring it to their attention that they should be sitting in some type of a commercial vehicle before they install anything at the end of the ramp? You'd be surprised at how many signs are right there and obstruct the vision of anybody in a commercial vehicle from seeing anything, a stop sign, any type of signs. And I know why they're there because I've seen them installed. They back up with a township or county truck and work from the back of the bed. That tells me that there isn't a lot of measurement either way in height, distance, proximity to the ramp. I would like to see a little more work put into the location of signs when it comes to height in particular. I mean, I would still stop if the sign was over the height of the commercial vehicle window, but it is an issue. And a lot of people wonder why, and I've had this question posed to me as well. Why do trucks pull out into the interchange to see? I know why they pull out. They can't see until they do. And it does pose a problem in itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Through your worship, there are standards for signs when you're traveling along the traveled road, the distance that it needs to be off the shoulder of the road and the height based on the shoulder of the road. I haven't seen consideration for exit ramps coming off of the highway, and in commercial vehicles is a good example. But for me, County Road 3 for the pedestrian vehicles with the steel beam guide rail that's there. It's directly in the line of sight for vehicles that are coming off the highway. I think that the issue there is with the vertical alignment of the ramp and the road itself on County Road 3 in both directions, given that the bridge is so elevated that the roads, both of them lead up to the bridge, where if the roads had been elevated and it was flat, the visibility would have been much better for everybody.
Follow up.
Thank you, Your Worship. The other factor, as you well know, the fact that that bridge is not at a 90-degree angle to the 401. Both those off ramps are not at a 90-degree to where you're trying to see. It's slightly less than.
Askew.
And that's true, skewed. And then that leads to the complication of being able to blocking the view.
And just to bookend that, I did ask for the minister to rethink that before they redid the bridge, to look at the off ramps and look at the approaches specifically, and was told that now we're going to do the bridge anyways. So anyway, one last moment. There you go.
Thank you. This one might I'd be able to bounce off the fire chief. I bumped into a couple of residents here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to think whom now. There was another serious accident at the off ramp that Councillor Maybe's been alluding to for a long time. That happened a couple of weeks ago. Are you aware of that one? Were you called out to that one? There was another accident where a car come up the ramp. Now I remember the resident that told me, and it was a resident here. Car come up the ramp. The resident, knowing the off ramp and its long history of being dangerous, slowed down. And just as sure as they slowed down, the person proceeded across, and there was a T-boned accident right there. Luckily, nobody hurt. So likely why you didn't get the call. So for the MTO, in their wisdom, to deny that interchange is dangerous, if they're doing it on death rate, then it's just a matter of time until it will qualify.
Yes, and through your worship, we did not get a call on that one, but I was aware of it.
So would GAN would have got that call as mutual aid, or
Nope.
nobody was called?
No, just EMS would have been an OPP. Depending on the severity of the accident, we get called, or it's based on what OPP or EMS
Call.
deems appropriate.
Fair enough. Thank you. Councillor Jameson.
First, I want to thank your worship and the Director of Operations for trying hard for the team to get MTO to somehow realize that people live out here and use the roads. So I just want to comment that the 1532 is not something that should be delayed with respect to slowing things down from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. And Lyndhurst Road still needs a light at the intersection. And I also just want to again thank the operations director for taking care of the Sealy's Bay entrances. It has made a huge difference and everybody is very pleased, but that is the responsibility of MTO, and they're not doing their job. They're not doing their job by us. And I appreciate how hard you've tried, but it's just very disappointing. Thank you.
I think we would all concur with that. Other business, is there any other business? Councillor Fody?
Thank you, Your Worship. My only comment on other business is to thank all our staff that were involved with the international plowing match. We put on an impressive display down there. You know, it was under the banner of the Leeds and Grenville County exhibit, but I know for a fact that a number of our staff were there and manned tables and booths and tents and equipment, and it was impressive. I was proud to say that, you know, we were well represented there to support our United Counties and as a whole.
Definitely. Other business. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. This is perhaps our last committee of the whole before the election. And I would like to thank all of the staff, all of the council, mayor, clerk, for all your due diligence in making this council get to where it has been. I feel that this council has done leaps and bounds over some others, and it isn't without great staff that help that process, give us the information and let us make decisions that we need to make. And I thank you very much. And Madam Mayor, for being acclaimed. It's impressive. Thank you for all your hard work. And with that, Thanksgiving is coming up, so we're thankful for this whole group. Thank you.
Well, thank you very. Mm. All I can think of is the WKRP turkey one. Yes, any other business? Seeing none, I'll move forward to notice of motion. Counselor Fody, you have something?
I do, your worship. Rather than blank out my screen, could I be so bold as to ask the clerk or yourself to read that notice of motion?
You don't have to read
I
the
don't need
motion. You
to?
just need to let us know that the motion is coming forward. It'll be included in everybody's package next week.
Okay, all right. There will be a notice of motion with regards to waste management and how it affects us in the county level. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Counselor Fody. So mayor's update. I'll try to be as quick as possible. Sorry, I should ask, is there any other notices of motion? Because as much as I appreciate the kind words, we've still got one more for sure that we're going to be here for, but seeing no other notices of motion. September was a packed month. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of things that happened. Congratulations to the Turkey Fair organizers in Lyndhurst. As usual, it was very well attended. Most of the council made it out at some point during the day. But I think what's most impressive is just the sheer number of people that wander around the tiny little village of Lyndhurst and really have the best time. And all the people that come to be vendors or performers or food trucks, food purveyors. It's always a great day. So Truffle Shuffle was last Sunday and they had the best, I believe their best numbers yet, which was over 120 participants. I got out there that morning. I did not run. I did not even shuffle, mainly because I had another event to get to. I wasn't able to be there for the whole morning, but I just want to say that how impressed I am about Ridgeway Confections, and speaking to that, they won an award at the Thousand Islands Gananoque Chamber regarding the Truffle Shuffle and what it's done for the community over the years. So they raised over $3,500, which is fantastic. And that's just one business who's decided to take that on. And then all the other volunteers that show up and help them out. And Derek and Cindy are just lovely giving people, and just one more show of their commitment to their community. So we thank Ridgeway Confections and all the people who came to participate in the Truffle Shuffle. So going on to the Chamber Gala, it was very impressive. Councillor Fody, Deputy Mayor Lackey, and myself, along with Councillor Fody's lovely wife, Amy, attended that. And it was on the Rockport boat line on a somewhat chilly night. But nonetheless, we were cozy down below in the closed-in deck. And I think the thing that was most exciting was that the majority of the winners that evening were township businesses. So Thornbush Landscaping, I don't have my list here in front of me, so I apologize. Thornbush Landscaping, Terry Dawson, the Green Gecko, Serenity Resort, Wendy's Country Market, or Furnace Falls Farm. And Ridgeway. Yeah. So the five out of the 7, I think, awards were for businesses within the township. So we thank the Chamber of Commerce for working so hard to recognize businesses who have not only survived, but thrived during COVID and afterwards. So we really appreciate that. The Terry Fox Run, I did have the pleasure of attending that. And we thank our 2 staff members that were involved, Kim Goodman and McKenna Modler. Kim actually donated her hair along with Lisa Marie Vincent, who also donated her hair. I'm not sure how much was raised. Okay. So we haven't got a full tally from that, but Lisa Marie and her late husband were always the champions of that. And it was nice to see such a good turnout on a kind of a dreary day. But Terry Fox wasn't slowed down by rain or anything else for that matter. So it was nice to see the commitment out there. The seniors picnic down at Charleston Lake Provincial Park was well attended. In fact, I believe it was a sellout, which is great to get seniors out, some who've never met each other before. So it's a great networking event as well. And everybody's gearing up for Thanksgiving and Halloween parties and celebrations. So just, I'll say it again next week, but be mindful on October 31st of little ghosts and goblins running, zigzagging across roadways and streets. And some of our villages are better lit than others. So just keep your eyes peeled on the 31st. And we wish everybody a great Thanksgiving. It's Agriculture Week, and we have our Driftscape Tourism app, which you can find our local producers. They're featured on there, and you can go and explore. I attended an event at the city of Kingston and Springer Market Square on Sunday, open farm harvest event, where they had local chefs provide making food for us to enjoy. And there was also libations and some other lovely drinks and a food truck. But we also ran into one of our residents who has a farm, Goat Ridge Farm, out on Ellisville Road, and they have goat walks. And a lovely couple. I got to meet them face to face at the candidates meeting in Lyndhurst last week, but they were at this event representing our township very well. So I would strongly suggest next year, if you like to eat or drink, it's a great little event, and it was a beautiful day outside. And I also ran into the mayor of Kingston at the time. So just remember to support local when it comes to our agricultural producers. The election time is fast approaching. Visit voterlookup.ca to make sure you are on the list or update your information. Your voter's card should be received by the middle of the month. If you do not receive a card, please reach out to our clerk at townshipleads.on.ca. And the voting period begins October 17th for online and televoting. And then the actual voting day is the 24th of October. And you can cast your ballot in person on the 24th at the Lansdowne Community Building. There is another in-person vote at Fox Run, but it is limited to the residents. It's not an open voting location due to pandemic privileges. Go ahead. Oh, that would be advanced polls.
Thank you. Through your worship, we do have 2 advanced polls, one at the Sealy's Bay Community Hall on Monday, October 17th from 12 noon to 8 p.m. We also have another advanced poll at the Cornerstone Calvary Church north of Gananoque on Tuesday, October 18th from noon until 8 p.m.
Okay, so 2 advanced polls, 1 poll on the day of, and then we really strongly suggest, if you have the connectivity, to use the online and the televote. It is secure. There is a number of documents according to that, or speaking to that. I know that in the last election, some people had concerns about how secure their vote and how private their vote is, but it's absolutely definitely secure and encrypted and all that kind of stuff. So there's no way that anybody can tell how you voted, just that you did vote and you cast your vote. So private road grant applications for maintenance are due October 31st. Please apply online. If you're having difficulty, please reach out to Lisa, who is our admin person in that department. If you can't get a hold of her, please email the director and he will direct you to the right person. We are looking forward to hosting basic emergency management training on in our facilities here tomorrow. Participants are coming from all across the county. I send my regrets because I have joint services tomorrow morning in Rockville, so I won't be able to greet them, but we welcome them here, and I know that our staff will be welcoming to them as well. The office, waste sites, and library branches will be closed on Monday, October 10th for Thanksgiving. Council will be held next Tuesday night instead of Monday night, so just make sure that you amend your calendars if you forgot that Monday was a holiday. Just another reminder, I have joint services, which I am chair of tomorrow. I have committee of the whole for county on Wednesday and management board for Mapleview Lodge on Thursday morning. So if anybody has any comments or concerns in regards to those agendas, please reach out to me. And I'm happy to report back if anybody has any questions or concerns. So with that, that's all my mayor's update, unless there's anything that anybody else wants to add. Seeing none, I will put the motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Gorell, seconded by Councillor Olkey, that the committee of the whole adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you, everybody.